everybody, this is Tammy and I want to welcome you to my channel or welcome you back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to share with you an idea of how you can turn your scraps into a beautiful Starburst card. So I will tell you I was inspired to make this card when I completed this one in a class that I did with a friend of mine. Her name's Kim Moore, and she is a consultant with Close to My Heart. So we finished this class and I said, oh my goodness, Kim, please, do you mind if I share this idea? And she said, of course not. So I promptly pulled out some scraps from my drawer and created this version and this version. And now I'm gonna go through and make one that's completely different with you. So for starters, what you need to do is gather 5 different colors of scraps, things that coordinate. So I pulled out literally 5 chunks of scraps from my drawer. I didn't trim them down because I wanted to go through that process with you. Okay. You're also going to need an A2 card base. Now, these ones that I did on these other cards were black and navy. They really coordinated well and they made those colors pop. But when I was looking for some other coordinating paper, I came across this card base and thought it would work well with these colors. So we're going to use that one. And then you're going to need a piece of white cardstock that's actually going to be the piece that you're going to be building on. So you're going to want to cut this 1/4 of an inch shorter on each side to go on your card base. We're going to mark this base so that we know exactly how to build that starburst after we cut the pieces. So I'm going to line this up on my work mat. I'm just making a little mark at 1 inch up from the bottom. I'm going to use my ruler to draw that line just straight across. It just gives you a building line to help guide the work that you're doing later. Okay. You're also going to want to make a mark at 2 5/8. So this particular mat only measures in 1/4 inches, but I know that 5/8 is between 1/2 and 3/4, so I'm going to make a little mark here. Okay. And that will give me a good idea of where I need to be when I start to build. The next thing I want to do with this particular piece is go ahead and stamp an image down here at the bottom. So in this case, I'm going to use a stamp from this set. It's a Close to My Heart set. I'm going to use some peacock ink. And go ahead and just do this down pretty near the bottom because I don't want the other design elements to interfere. Okay. And I did rock my stamp a little bit, so I've got a little mark there. Fortunately, with this particular design, it's okay. It's going to be underneath the other pieces that we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside and pull up these scraps back over. So for each one of these scraps, we're going to be cutting it to 1 1/4 by 4. Okay. So I really like this little guillotine trimmer. Whatever you want to play with, that is up to you. But 1 1/4 by 4 for all of these. So hopefully you are just creating right along with me and you'll have a beautiful Starburst card to show for it when you're done. This one's already long enough, so let's do that way. It's kind of funny with some of these scraps that I chose. So this is piece number 4. We've got 1 more to go. And I like to do things sometimes in real time, just so you can see really how quickly a project like this can come together. And that one is actually a little bit short, so I think I'm going to start over. Go ahead and get my 1 1/4 out of a little longer piece by 4. Okay. So I'm not done with this trimmer yet, because what I need to do now is turn all of these little strips into triangles to go ahead and build the Starburst. So there's a trick to cutting these that really makes them turn out nice and crisp. Now, if you are using a trimmer that's got a slide blade, you can still do this. So just kind of watch how I'm positioning the paper, and that'll help you see what to do. So I'm going to show you before I open this, because I know it hides the view a little bit. So when I'm positioning this rectangle, obviously if I tilt it a little bit, I can cut 2 triangles. The problem is it's really hard to get your paper just perfect to get really nice crisp points. So what I would recommend is just coming a little bit further out at the top and pushing a little bit more in at the bottom. And it's okay, you're going to be creating a little bit of a squared edge here, just a tiny bit, and a tiny bit here. But what you're going to get is a beautiful crisp point on each end. And then this extra up here is going to be trimmed off anyway. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. If you need more clarification on that, feel free to leave me a comment and I'd be happy to go through it again. But the big goal here is that you get the 2 triangles and you get these really beautiful crisp points. So I'm going to do this. Remember, just jogged a tiny bit more out at the top and then pushed in a tiny bit extra at the bottom. So I'm going to do that for all 5 of these. And what I'm creating is 10 of these triangles. And that's exactly what I'm going to need to create this card. Okay, got 1 more. Once you've got all your pieces cut, your next job is going to be just kind of laying them out and seeing what design you like. So I'll pull this card back over and just play with these a little bit. I definitely want like a pattern next to a more of a solid. I don't necessarily want those together because they're a little busy side by side. So I might do something like that. Okay, and I would just repeat that same pattern personally. All right, so there's my basic layout, okay? And I'm just gonna start putting that together on here. Now I would definitely recommend starting with your top, one of your center pieces. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5. So these 2 are your first pieces that you're gonna apply to the card, okay? So you can dry fit this if you really wanna be extra careful, just to make sure that everything got cut right, that it's lining up beautifully, that all your points are coming together. Yeah, it never hurts to be sure. So we'll take a quick look. Okay, everything's looking good. If you find that something's not quite lining up, or that your spacing's not quite right, you may just need to pull your points in a little bit more, something like that. So since I know that this is going to work out okay, because I just checked it, I'm actually going to go ahead and apply my adhesive over this whole area, because it's kind of a pain to do each piece separately. If I hadn't dry fit it, then I would be a little more inclined to do that, but I just checked. I know it's gonna fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these on, lining those points up. Okay. And if you're wondering, like, oh my goodness, this looks weird, it's all flying off the edge of the card. don't worry, we're going to take care of that in just a second. Okay, and then just continue with this side. Make sure you're getting those points all the way in. Now in this case, we're actually going to be covering the points up with something, but if you were not going to, you'd really want to make sure that you've got those points just perfect coming together there in the center. Okay, there we go. And last piece. This one for some reason is a tiny bit off, but what I'm going to do is just push it in a little bit extra. Put a tiny bit more tape there. Okay, so that's kind of fun. Now, if you just flip that over, you can use your scissors or a trimmer, it's up to you, to just clean that up, following the line of the paper that you're building on. Okay, going all the way around. Now I've got a bunch of little tiny scraps that can go in the garbage, and I turned those into something really fun. So I'm happy with how this is looking so far. What I want to do now is go ahead and adhere it to my base before I do anything else. Oh yeah, I like how that peach looks. Okay, and I want to just add a little bit of decorative element to this. So I cut this flower and then another center just with a die cut that I have out of some other scrap paper. This happens to be a little bit glittery, and I'm just curling up the edges of this flower a bit to give it a little more interest. I'm going to use a foam dot on the back, and I'm just going to pop that up right in the middle. I don't want to cover up my sentiment. So that looks good there. And I don't want this to be too thick, just in case I decide I'm going to mail it. So I will, that's glittery. Hopefully this will adhere well. Give it a little spot of glue. Get that center on. And then these leaves, I'm just going to tuck in right on the edges. Again, a quick detail just to finish it off. Okay. My last thing I'm going to add is just a few of these little blue sequins, just for a last little pop. So I'm going to do one right in the middle of my flower. I'll do one here by my message. And sequins are just a nice, reasonable way to add an extra little detail, a little pop of fun. They are inexpensive. It seems like when you buy some, they last forever. So just a nice little embellishment. Of course, you could use enamel dots or jewels or brads, whatever it is that you like to play with. So my last feature that I'm going to add on this card is just a little doodle line right around the bottom. I think my favorite thing about doodling is that it's kind of the curvier the better. So this card says "You're the best," and I think that'll be a really fun card to give to somebody, and all I needed to make it was scraps from my drawer. So it was kind of fun hunting for those and putting together something beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this video today and that it inspires you to get out some of your scraps and make something fun. If you enjoyed watching today, please take a minute to hit the subscribe button and that little bell so that you get notified when I put out new content. and share it with anybody who you think might be interested. I hope you're having a super day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.